This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, and faith-focused feature stories with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Time to vote, New York. Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast. It's primary day in the Empire State, and Democratic socialism is on the ballot. Socialists will seek to grow their influence in Albany, Washington, and New York City with the backing of socialist Mayor Zohran Mamdani.
There's never been a better time to be a socialist in the United States of America, which seems crazy that I'm even saying that, but there is an open lane, and they are taking it full steam ahead.
Conservative influencer Tiffany Smiley says Mamdani is backing 3 socialists for Congress in the New York City area.
These candidates, they hate Israel. They want to abolish ICE. They want Medicare for all. And I think what is most frightening is that they actually hate America. There's a candidate on record that Mamdani is backing that actually said she would like to wipe her hands with the American flag. Those are frightening comments.
The only statewide contest at stake today is the Democratic primary for state comptroller. 5-term incumbent Tom DiNapoli facing his first ever primary challenge after nearly 20 years in office. Polls are open till 9 p.m. Important to note, New York is a closed primary, meaning only registered Democrats and registered Republicans can take part. Vice President J.D. Vance reporting progress in peace talks with Iran. The two sides huddled for 36 hours in Switzerland this week to try and iron out their differences.
This is laying a foundation for what could be a truly transformed Middle East. But we haven't built the house yet. We're going to have to keep on building, and that's what we'll do.
Vance says Iran will allow international inspectors into the country to verify it is not in the nuclear weapons business. Iran says there's been no such deal. Traffic is flowing again in the Strait of Hormuz. That was a key sticking point in the negotiations. ABC's Justin Fischel is at the White House today.
President Trump said basically this squeezing of the strait is working. Economically, we can't do this anymore. He said, I don't want to be known as the Herbert Hoover presidency. Herbert Hoover was the Great Depression. Trump is saying, without saying it directly, the economic pressure is working. He wanted a way out, and he wanted a deal.
Iran is getting a 60-day waiver from U.S. sanctions to sell oil on the world market. Karine Hajar with the Washington Post is not so sure this memorandum of understanding will benefit us.
I have to say I'm pretty alarmed by what we're seeing in this MOU. We are working with fundamentally unreliable actors here. The Iranians have proved over and over again that they're not reliable. And some of the concessions that the White House are looking for example, inspections of nuclear sites, are things that the Iranians are already supposed to be doing anyways. So I'm pretty alarmed by this.
Gas prices have dropped by more than 60 cents a gallon since the U.S. and Iran signed the deal to wind down the war. The race is on to replace British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who announced his resignation over the weekend. Starmer will remain in power until his Labour Party chooses a new leader next month.
Unbelievably, we're about to have our 6th Prime Minister in 7 years.
UK Reform Party leader Nigel Farage.
We vote for somebody in a general election to be our Prime Minister. We expect them to serve their term. What is going on here, frankly, is reminiscent of a banana republic that has totally devalued democracy.
The mayor of Manchester, Andy Burnham, is the odds-on favorite to succeed Starmer, who leaves office less than 2 years after taking over at 10 Downing Street. The heat is on across much of Europe, from France to Spain, Italy to Germany. Millions are sweating it out in triple-digit temperatures today. Paris is expected to soar past 100 degrees for the next 4 days.
Most of Europe doesn't really do air conditioning. We know at least 40 people have died since Thursday alone, among them, sadly, 2 young children who were left in the back of a hot car. But the majority have died drowning, swimming in unsupervised water. There are health alerts in dozens of cities, from Germany to Italy. Here in the United Kingdom, we're going to break weather records as well.
ABC's James Longman. A housing reform bill has passed the U.S. Senate. South Carolina Republican Tim Scott.
It unlocks housing supply. When you put more housing supply on the market, more people have a chance to become a first-time home buyer.
Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer also supports the bill.
The median home buyer in America is 40 years old. The down payment is excruciating to many and puts housing out of reach for them.
The measure includes a ban on Wall Street investors from buying up single-family homes. This bipartisan bill could be taken up today in the U.S. House. President Trump has vowed to sign it once it reaches his desk. Efforts continue to try and clean up the reflecting pool on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. Here's NBC's Garrett Hake.
With 2 weeks to go until America's 250th birthday, the nation's reflecting pool is still looking more algae green than America blue.
There's lots of green and it smells really bad.
The president on Monday repeating his claims that the Washington, D.C. landmark is under deliberate attack, first suggesting that vandals sliced the bottom of the reflecting pool.
I saw it. They cut it very violently.
The president also suggesting the algae bloom was the result of sabotage.
6 people have been arrested so far, including a U.S. Olympic canoeist who touched the peeling paint in the reflecting pool. Music mogul Clive Davis is dead at the age of 94. He's best known for catapulting the careers of singers like Whitney Houston and Bruce Springsteen. Davis also worked with Rod Stewart and Aretha Franklin. He served as president of Columbia Records and was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in the year 2000. Still to come on the Noon Report, it's primary day in New York, the president in Pennsylvania, and a big day for Buffalo. We'll explain after this.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. Our weather is shaping up for the next day and a half or so. We'll have forecast details coming up in 10.
All right, Kevin, we'll see you in about 10 minutes. Thank you. As mentioned earlier, it's primary day in New York. Voters are headed to the polls to nominate candidates in local, state, and federal elections for the November midterms. Joanne Shawhan is with the League of Women Voters. She tells Spectrum News.
So you can only vote in the primary of the party you were registered to vote in. Democrats can only vote in the Democratic primary. Republicans can only vote in the Republican primary. Don't have a party or you're an independent voter, you cannot vote in a primary.
Polls are open until 9 tonight. President Trump will be touting the U.S. economy in Pennsylvania today. He's visiting the Mack Trucks manufacturing facility in Lehigh County, just outside of Allentown. That facility was recently awarded a nearly $50 million contract to construct dozens of heavy-duty dump trucks for the military. This is the president's 5th trip to Pennsylvania since taking office for a second time. A Broome County man charged with 6 counts of manslaughter for a fatal fire in Endwell. 24-year-old Tyler Russell facing felony counts in connection to the deadly blaze at the Knights Inn in Endwell early Monday. That motel was being used to house migrants, parolees, low-income individuals, and victims of domestic violence. Endwell Police Chief Matthew Grafton.
In something of this nature, a very challenging fire, as far as the magnitude and loss of life, everyone steps up, steps in, and supports one another.
Police say the 6 fire victims died from smoke inhalation. The United Way of Broome County's created a GoFundMe page to assist some 70 people impacted by the deadly arson attack. ICE is preparing to sell or transfer 2 Pennsylvania warehouses that were purchased this year to house illegal immigrants. The federal government spent more than $700 million to acquire those facilities. They included a former Big Lots distribution center in Schuylkill County and a 500,000 square foot warehouse in Berks County. It's a big day today for the city of Buffalo, the Queen City, cutting the ribbon on a new home for the Buffalo Bills. That $2 billion Highmark Stadium construction began more than 3 years ago. These Bills fans have mixed feelings about this new era of professional football Hill in Western New York.
My very first football game as a Bills fan will be in the new stadium, so I'm really excited for it. I've been a Bills fan for years.
And I feel like the experience will never be the same. I think there's just something special about all the history in the old stadium.
The Bills play their first preseason game in the new Highmark Stadium in mid-August against the Carolina Panthers. The first regular season game will happen there against the Detroit Lions September 17th. New York Governor Kathy Hochul's formed an exploratory committee that will investigate the feasibility of Lake Placid hosting the Winter Olympics again. It wouldn't be till the year 2042. Camille DeLongis with Spectrum News.
This is essentially a one-year feasibility study, and at its conclusion, Governor Hochul says that committee will share its findings and make recommendations to state leaders. Lake Placid has hosted the Winter Games twice, in 1932 and again in 1980, so a lot of the necessary infrastructure is already in place.
A decision on who will host the 2042 Winter Olympics won't be made for another decade. The Pennsylvania state budget is due 1 week from today. It's been almost 5 years since the Commonwealth has adopted an on-time budget. Democrats have proposed a $53.3 billion spending plan. Republicans say it's too expensive and is fiscally unsustainable. Lawmakers are debating the regulation and taxation of skill games and whether or not to legalize recreational marijuana. A new report suggests Pennsylvania colleges still have a lot of work to do when it comes to preparing future teachers, especially those who teach reading. Family Life's Brian Query.
The National Council on Teacher Quality reviewed 23 teacher preparation programs across Pennsylvania and found only 4 earned top grades for reading instruction. The report focused on how well colleges teach the science of reading, including phonics, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. Researchers say that many future teachers are learning structured literacy methods that weren't widely used when they were students themselves. The findings come as Pennsylvania prepares to require structured literacy in public schools beginning with the 2027-2028 school year. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thank you, Brian. Addiction prevention specialists say opioid settlement money is saving lives in New York. Nearly $500 million has been invested in the Empire State the past few years. That is the largest investment of any state in the country. There's been a 43% decrease in drug overdose deaths in New York from 2023 to last year. The York County Food Bank received a tractor trailer loaded with 20 tons of food yesterday. Those donations came from a local church as part of America 250 celebrations. Food Bank spokeswoman Kelly Rogers.
They're doing that as part of their larger initiative across the country with America 250. They're donating 250 trucks, and we're lucky enough to receive one of those.
The York County Food Bank provides food to 40,000 people on a monthly basis. Harrisburg police will take to the streets this summer on e-bikes. The electric bicycles made possible thanks to a $10,000 donation. Harrisburg Police Commissioner Tom Carter says the e-bikes will increase officer mobility, visibility, and accessibility throughout neighborhoods, parks, trails, and community events. He adds the bikes allow officers to better engage with the public and patrol areas that are difficult to access by vehicle. Let's check your Tuesday sports next. A monster trade in the NBA. Here to tell us about it is ESPN's Jay Reynolds.
Giannis Antetokounmpo is now on his way out of Milwaukee. The Bucks pulling off a blockbuster last night with the Heat. Giannis, the two-time MVP, going to Miami along with Bobby Portis. The Heat sending a package to the Bucks that includes Tyler Hero and 3 first-round picks.
The NBA draft is tonight in Brooklyn. The Washington Wizards get the top overall pick. They're expected to take BYU forward A.J. Dibonza first in the draft. The Oklahoma Sooners beat the North Carolina Tar Heels in the third and final game of the College World Series from Omaha, Nebraska. Final score 13-2, wasn't even close. This is the third national title for the Sooners, their first first since 1994, the Tar Heels have never won the College World Series. The Detroit Tigers opened their series at home against the New York Yankees with a 5-3 win. Framber Valdez striking out 8 over 6 innings. New York skipper Aaron Boone says Valdez was lights out for the Tigers.
He's good with his sinker curveball combination, mixed in some changeups. I thought had a presence even up and down a little bit, but both sides of the plate with it.
Detroit has now won 4 straight. Garrett Cole was saddled with the loss for the Yanks after allowing 5 runs on 9 hits. New York's now dropped 3 in a row and 4 of their last 5. The Phillies fell to the Nationals last night 4-1. The Mets-Cubs series at Citi Field was rained out. And at Soccer's World Cup, Messi makes history again.
Is this another one? Lionel Messi, there's the block. And Messi again. Lionel Messi in the double. Argentina get the win. And the little magic man gets his second goal of the game.
Messi scored both Argentina goals in a 2-0 win over Austria on Fox. He has scored all 5 of their goals in Argentina's 2 wins. And he has 18 in his career at the World Cup. That's a record.
That's Dave Anthony with Fox Sports. And still to come on the Noon Report, Democratic socialism in New York City, the heat wave that's spreading across Europe, and it's Christian counseling with a twist. We'll explain on Mission Pulse after this.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stone Street. Last week, a group called Restore Britain released a summary report of an inquiry into the widespread and systemic sexual exploitation of vulnerable working-class women and children across that nation. At least 250,000 girls were sexually assaulted, trafficked, tortured, even killed, mostly by gangs of Pakistani Muslims. The details in the report are so utterly horrifying, it's difficult to believe they're true. But as shocking as the reports of abuse are the descriptions of the response by British authorities, including police, teachers, social workers, doctors, and politicians. Evidence of the abuse, reports by victims, were downplayed and ignored. In fact, when Prime Minister Starmer, who resigned on Monday, was Director of Public Prosecutions and the head of the Crown Prosecution Service, he himself dismissed 13,000 cases of suspected child sexual offenders with a warning letter instead of attempting to prosecute them. According to the report, it was the fear of being labeled racist, the fear of losing votes, the fear of rioting if prosecution happened, the fear of accusations of classism that all contributed to this culture in which so-called community cohesion became more important than protecting women and children. British citizens who spoke out about the abuse or who expressed criticism of mass migration were the ones that were often prosecuted, especially if their criticisms were directed at Pakistani or Muslim communities. In some cases, the fathers attempting to rescue their own daughters from the abusers were the ones that were arrested. Last year alone in Great Britain, about 12,000 people were prosecuted for social media posts about all of this, some for longer periods than those who committed the crimes that they were protesting on social media. Now, underlying this whole British response, as well as the silence by media outlets both there and here in the U.S., is a cultural mood that is common among elites and shaped by critical theory. In this vision of the world, Western culture is oppressive, and minorities, especially immigrants, are victims of Western oppression. Thus, minorities cannot be expected to be held to the same standards. In fact, according to this idea, their behavior results from their oppression. And identifying criminals within a minority group, it's assumed, would only foster deeper racism and Islamophobia, a term that was originally coined by the Muslim Brotherhood to shut down criticism of Islam. In this whole morally upside-down world, racism and Islamophobia are worse crimes than the sexual exploitation of women and children. The truth here is that the gangs that have been operating in Britain have deep ideological and cultural roots that were shaped by Islam, including Sharia law. While most Muslims are law-abiding and many imams have condemned the gangs, the scale of abuse here is so widespread it had to have been known, and yet it was allowed and even enabled in some of these communities. What these gangs have done to at least 250,000 women and children in Britain is allowed by these extreme interpretations of Sharia. Many of the young men responsible for these atrocities believe they're answerable to Sharia, not to British law. They believe that what they're doing is approved by Allah, especially when done to an enemy who has oppressed them. In other words, that's something that radical Islam has in common with critical theory. The terrible story here reveals just why it's so foolish to suggest that all cultures and all religions are somehow morally equal. They're not. Ideas have consequences. Bad ideas have victims. That's why we have to know what's true. In Great Britain alone, the victims of Islam and critical theory are numbering into the hundreds of thousands. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
Thank you, John. Let's take it outside. It's weather where you live with meteorologist Kevin Williams.
Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. The call for this afternoon, a mixture of clouds and sunshine with high temperatures into the 70s, so milder than it was yesterday. The stars are out tonight, the low mostly 50s. Tomorrow, ample sunshine, high in the 70s to near 80. Thursday, mostly cloudy with showers arriving. There could be a couple of thunderstorms as well. High temperatures Thursday, mid-70s to the lower 80s.
All right, Kevin, thank you. This is the Noon Report on Family Life. I'm your host, Bob Price, and here's what's happening Tuesday, June 23rd. It's primary day in New York. Polls open till 9 tonight. Voters are nominating candidates for the November midterms in local, state, and federal races. Democratic socialism is very much on the ballot in New York City today. Several congressional races there. Media critic Joe Concha says Democratic voters are being asked today to decide between capitalism and socialism.
This, let's be clear, is a takeover right now by socialists in New York City and other cities around the country. This is the way things work now, and one by one, cities will fall in this country as a result of socialism taking over, because the Democratic Socialist Party is far better organized, has a lot more money, and has the energy behind it right now.
New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani is endorsing 3 socialist candidates today as his political muscle is put to the test. New York is a closed primary, and that means only registered Democrats and registered Republicans can take part. President Trump is in the Family Life listening area today. He's in the Lehigh Valley visiting a Mack Trucks facility near Allentown. That facility was recently awarded a nearly $50 million contract to build dump trucks for the military. There are new developments in the push for peace with Iran. Vice President Vance says face-to-face talks in Switzerland have netted results. He calls it a foundation for a lasting peace. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez.
We're now in that 60-day window to reach a broader peace deal, and frantic diplomacy is underway in Switzerland, Pakistan, and the Middle East, where Secretary of State Marco Rubio heads today for high-level meetings with key U.S. allies.
VP Vance says Tehran will allow international observers into the country to make sure they're not getting back into the nuclear weapons business. Iran insists no such deal's been made. Still, Andrew Harding with the Heritage Foundation thinks Iran will have no choice but to capitulate.
What matters now is ensuring that this initial momentum turns into long-standing progress that can allow this MOU to turn into a meaningful deal that benefits American security and prosperity.
Iran and the U.S. agreeing to a memorandum of understanding that gives both sides more time to negotiate a long-term peace deal. The U.S. Senate has passed a sweeping housing affordability bill with the aim of lowering prices. It was approved on a 85-5 vote last night. Democrat Elizabeth Warren.
The median age of a first-time home buyer is now at an all-time high. And it's no secret why this has happened. Our nation has a shortage of millions of homes. And our housing crisis doesn't just affect the opportunity to buy a home. Americans can't afford to rent either.
The average age for a first-time home buyer in this country is now 40. The bipartisan bill heads to the House next. President Trump has vowed to sign it. With 2 weeks to go before America's 250th birthday, work continues to try and clean up the reflecting pool on the National Mall in Washington.
The president's American flag blue paint floating at the top of the reflecting pool was the work of vandals and not contractors who worked on the renovation.
Let's put it this way. When you have a 350, I think it's 350, not 250, a 350-foot slit from one end to the other, You think that's proof?
An algae bloom also turned much of the water green this month, something President Trump also suggested could be the work of saboteurs. Cleaning the algae may require the pool, which was renovated for about $15 million, to again be drained.
Fox's Jared Halpern. A sweltering heat wave has gripped much of Europe, from Spain to France, Italy to Germany. Millions are sweating it out in triple-digit temperatures today, and it's only going to get worse later this week. Reporter Molly Hunter.
In France, the extreme heat turning deadly, costing at least 18 people their lives. Temperatures soaring over 107 degrees in Bordeaux, shattering previous records. In the French capital, some schools closing early this week, and the city's fountains and cooling stations packed as Paris nears its hottest June days ever recorded.
We try to seek shelter when we can and go home and take a nap at the hottest times of the day.
Meteorologists blame a massive heat dome, a ridge of high pressure trapping hot air from North Africa. And what makes it even deadlier over here, air conditioning is just not that common. Across parts of Europe, only about 20% of households have AC. In the UK, it's about 14%. Health alerts now in effect across England, and forecasters warn the worst may still be ahead later this week.
That's Molly Hunter in London. This is the Noon Report for Tuesday on Family Life.
This is Mission Pulse. We spotlight ministries making a difference where you live, across the country, and around the world. This week, we spotlight Beloved Healer Wellness in Corning, New York. With me, pastor and counselor Jay Lascolia and his wife, Cherie. We've heard of Christian counseling before, but this is a completely different level. Spiritual, emotional, relational, even physical. Tell me what you do.
It's a holistic approach. The Bible talks about spirit, soul, and body, and how God wants us healthy in every area of our lives.
I help people from feeling stuck to having hope and vitality by showing them that physical transformation is possible for their bodies, that they don't have to stay feeling so unwell.
How prevalent is poor health? And when I say poor health, I mean mental health, our physical bodies, and our relationships with the people that we love.
Yeah, so 3 out of 4 Americans are currently living with at least one chronic health condition, which tells us we're living in a world that's hurting, not only physically, but mentally, relationally, and spiritually.
If somebody comes to your office for a session, can you walk me through what that looks like?
Yeah, Sarah, from the spiritual and soul side, so we're made up spirit, soul, and body, and our soul is our mind, will, and emotions, and it's really inner healing that we do with people, especially from wounds and traumas and hurts from the past that get into the soul, helping them heal mainly by seeing Jesus there in the wound and then leading them through forgiveness, healing of the soul. Your soul is your mind, will, and emotions. And throughout our lives, we get wounded in our soul. There can be trauma. There can be other wounds and hurts. So I like to say we're conduits for the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit helps a person, leading them through healing by first seeing Jesus in the wound, helping them forgive, and then there's the spiritual freedom component, or helping them get delivered from bondage, where the evil one tries to keep them believing lies that are just contrary to what God says about us as his kids.
Tell me biblically why it's so important to take care of you.
Sarah, you're so right. If you don't make time for your body, it will talk back to you in one way, shape, or form, and it's usually not good. Practicing Sabbath rest is just essential. I've been learning this myself, and helps keep us in the rhythm that God has designed for us to be as we walk in alignment with him.
Jay, have you seen people truly healed? You know, you've been in counseling ministry for a long time. Have you seen the ship turn around?
Yeah, in the 22 years that I've done this, I mean, there's just multiple stories. I've seen people healed physically, miraculously, and I've seen a lot of inner healing and people just living in the freedom, right? Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom, living in the freedom God has for them. And I think of one young man that not too long ago, I would say within the last couple of years, came to me, and he was in such deep bondage, depression. He was an addict. He was into drugs and alcohol and really wanted to be free. And through the leading of the Holy Spirit, again, it's not Jay, it's Jesus Christ that heals. He got free. and he is totally free. And he found some physical healing as well. He was free from addiction, and he's married now and expecting his first child. So this has been really exciting for me. Just one example, to be on the sidelines and kind of cheer people on as Jesus does what only Jesus can do as the healer.
A pastor and an RN working side by side, that's pretty unique. Why do you do what you do?
We know the Lord has called us to this because we've experienced healing individually through Christ, healing for our marriage. We've watched what the Lord's done, and we want to help others walk in that healing and freedom as well. A great analogy for that is when Jesus said to Lazarus, come out of the tomb. Lazarus came to life. So as someone that comes to Christ, they come to life. But Lazarus still had the grave clothes wrapped around him. And Jesus' second command was get those grave clothes off of him. And that's a great analogy for healing. There's so many believers that are dealing with deep wounds in their soul, that are dealing with bondage, and they aren't free because the grave clothes are still wrapped around them. And Jesus is the one that would set them free.
If you had to stand in front of anyone and tell them why they need to take the time to heal themselves, what would you tell them?
You're worth it. The only way that you can really help others and your family is to be the wholest version of yourself. And that starts, number one, with God, making sure that you're nourishing yourself in His Word, with the right foods, with the right supplements, with the right rest, and then you can be all that God created you to be.
You can follow pastor and counselor Jay Lascolia and his wife, RN Cherie Lascolia, on Facebook at Beloved Healer Wellness.
All right, thank you, Sarah. The name of the program, Mission Pulse. Tuesdays during the Noon Report, we spotlight ministries making a difference where you live, across the country, and around the world. And finally at noon, this Thursday will mark 6 months till Christmas. Can you believe it? Just 6 months away, and retailers are already getting ready. Correspondent Bree Tennis has more on the psychology behind the holiday shopping season.
The traditional retail calendar keeps merchants buying and planning 3 to 6 months in advance. They analyze trends and hope they pick the correct hot item for the upcoming holiday season. The National Retail Federation says they hit the mark about 65% of the time and push the holiday creep early to get you to part with your cash. Last year's Starbucks released its pumpkin spice latte on August 26th, but no pressure. I'm Bree Tennis.
Yeah, no pressure indeed. Thank you, Bree. And that's our world, the world we live in. Tuesday, the 23rd of June. I'm Bob Price, Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.